Guys, we're at 67 subscribers. I know. No autographs. However, I will say you all are goats. Thank you. If you couldn't tell by the title of this video, I'm talking about games that start off very good, but then end very bad. I think we've all played a game where we start off super interested in it, and it seems very good, and then by the time we get to that second level, we're just kind of done with it. Best example of this is Sonic 1. I know everybody out there that has played Sonic 1 has played the first level, been like, yeah, that's fun, get to the second level, and you're like, I'm done. I'm good. Like, everybody's done that. And honestly, I can't blame you, because the first level starts off so good. You get to learn everything you need to know about Sonic, his speed, his attitude, his unique platforming mechanics, and then immediately after you go to the slow platforming zone. The game almost immediately loses anything special about it. And you can also notice this pattern with Resident Evil as well. The exploration, item management, and puzzles of the first area of the first game, aka the Spencer Mansion, it's perfect. Genuinely, it's one of the best areas in the series, and it's their first go. It goes from being one of the best areas in the whole series to being boring, linear, and very story focused, if I'm being honest. Which the story focus isn't like a bad thing. It's just those side effects that come with it are bad. RE2's RPD area also has the same issue where, like, the RPD, very good. However, everything that comes after it, again, very linear in comparison and a lot less challenging. Jay's Reviews actually talks about this a lot in his RE3 video, where he talks about how RE3 kind of fixes that.
In RE2, I said that the later levels were a little short and linear compared to the RPD, which in and of itself wasn't as complex from the mansion from RE1.
Even the first Mario game, one of the most iconic games ever. Hey, it's me. I'm in the middle of editing, and I realized that kind of the point I have for why I don't really like the ending of Mario 2, I didn't really explain it that well, so I'm gonna explain it a little bit better here. So basically what I don't like about the original Mario game is that at the beginning it kind of employs, like, it's just running and jumping, right? And you learn how to figure that. And then once you get to that, it like slowly builds difficulty. But the thing is that the challenges that it gives you, I don't think are as good as the ones in the beginning, or they just aren't as fun. Like, say World 4, there's the level where you have to jump over the piranha plants to run away from the Lakitu. That level has very good design, and it communicates what you're supposed to be doing in a fun way, in an interesting way, with the arc of the coins and everything. But the thing that I don't like in some of the boss levels or castle levels, they have it to where you have to go through a certain pathways, and figuring out those pathways I just don't think is a fun mechanic, because it's not necessarily a challenge, it's just trial and error, and I don't think it's fun, and I don't think it's actually communicated well to the player at all. Mario Bros 2 is the Japanese one, like the Lost Levels one. It also has the same issue, but instead it's just the entire game. The entire game's just butt. You have to beat it like 8 times or something like that. And they have like wind areas, like that sucks. I haven't actually fully beat it because I'm not Nathaniel Bandy, but I have played it before, and it's not great. I didn't have fun with it. The first level has a poison mushroom, and it was just a bad first impression, if I'm being honest. But I hope you've noticed a kind of a pattern where, like, in the early stages of a series of games, the first game, usually very special, unique idea. And then later on in that game, it kind of loses everything that's special about it. Mario's fun, easy to understand mechanics and level design, gone by the second half. Sonic's speed and momentum-based platforming, gone. Resident Evil's non-linear puzzles and item management, gone. However, I'm not willing to say any of these games are actually bad, other than like the Lost Levels. They're all amazing in their own right. However, there are definitely some improvements to be made, which the sequels to each of these games pretty much got down. Sonic 2 had even more good levels, especially compared to the first game where it only had 1. This one has 2 downright amazing levels, and then the rest are actually just good. They're not really anything special, if I'm being honest, but there's nothing to complain about. Same for RE3 and Mario 3. RE3 is fully good the entire way through, unless you're talking about the remake. I'm kidding, I didn't really have a problem with the remake, but I do like the original more. Mario 3 it's a lot more challenging, but it's very fun all the way through. Yeah, no, I'm terrible at Mario 3. And I think these games were able to improve because the developers saw the flaws with their original creations and learned, hey, these games aren't as consistent as we want them to be. Let's get this all the way down, all the way through. Just make it a more consistent experience. However, these games also had to make a transition into 3D, I want to say, because even though RE was always 3D, kind of leaned even more into that 3D aspect with the third-person perspective. Resident Evil 4 handled its transition beautifully. A lot of people have issues with the last portion of the game. I personally don't. They say that the island segment goes on for way too long. I like the island. Not that one. I think the third-person RE games have kind of the opposite problem of what I've been talking about, where it starts off amazing and then they keep trying to copy that because they got it right the first time. And I think RE5 is okay. I don't think it's as good as RE4 because I like the story of RE4 a lot more, and I think it's just more interesting. I don't know why, I just kind of prefer it. Not really a good reason. But RE6, it eventually just turns into, again, a inconsistent experience where by the end you just want it to be over. However, Mario and Sonic, whenever it comes to their transition to 3D, very related, I should say. Because everybody says that Mario 64 is a good game. I disagree. This might be a hot take, but I genuinely can't stand Mario 64. I don't want to say it's a bad game, but definitely has issues. The controls, I can play the game. I'm not bad at the game. I'm actually fairly... 3D Mario games are like the only games I'm actually like good at. But the controls in this game are way worse than any 3D Mario game. Also, the last few levels, like nobody likes Rainbow Ride or TikTok Clock. Those levels suck. And they're not the only ones, but they're the best examples of like, this game is all about being in an open area, being able to basically just do whatever you want. You get to just run around a world for a little bit. And that's what makes the game special. But then, just like the other games, it loses everything that makes it special by becoming linear and boring. Because either you're sitting on like a magic carpet for 5 minutes per star, or you're going through this linear, boring TikTok Clock area. I do like the theme of the level, but that doesn't save it. Rainbow Ride is the worst level, and they're like the last 2 levels of the game. I will say Sonic had a somewhat better transition to 3D, somewhat. I think for this game it just mainly comes down to the pacing and how the game is structured, because it's very much like Mario 64 where there's a hub world that you go in and then you enter a level, do the level, you go back into the hub world and do the next level. But the problem with this one is that, one, I'd rather just have like Sonic Adventure 2 where you just go to each level like it's a regular game, and then also not have like 6 whole campaigns. This is the same problem with Mario 2. No one wants to beat a game 6 times in order to get to the end, unless you're crazy. I like Sonic Adventure 2's approach where it's kind of just a one and done. You get all of them done. You have multiple characters still, multiple mechanics that are all fun, but it's just much more entertaining the entire way through. And there's only 2 campaigns, but they're both unique enough to make it worth playing 2 times. Mario Sunshine also improves on Mario 64. It's just a much more consistent experience. I think something I was really trying to emphasize that I never actually did in the original recording is that a lot of these games, while they aren't bad, they're just not as consistent as other games. And that's kind of what I keep bringing up, is like the games that start to end are good all the way through. Those are a lot more consistent experiences than obviously the ones that start off good and then end bad, or slowly transition to being bad. So while I can't say Mario 64 is a good game, I can very easily say Mario Sunshine is a much consistent and much better game. I'd say that there are some bad levels, but they're not bad enough to like actually ruin the experience. With Mario 64, it's like, yeah, you'll have fun most of the way, but once you get to a few bad levels, it's like they take you long enough to where it kind of just messes up your vibe.
I'm about to get a couple groceries for the wife.
With Sunshine, the levels don't take long enough for it to make you not want to play. But again, these are big transitions. These are literally, basically entirely new games. They just have similar characters, which is why I think it falls under the same pattern as their 2D counterparts, where like the first game in the series kind of doesn't know what to do with itself. Even though it has the general mechanics and what makes it good, it's not going to be as consistent as later games. Same can kind of go for RE7 and RE8. RE7, but the moment you make it to RE7, it's good for your first playthrough, but Resident Evil games are meant to be played multiple times. I'm just gonna save you guys a lot of time by shortening this explanation. The game doesn't have as much replay value because there's too many scripted segments. That's all I said. It took me about 2 minutes to say that in the actual recording. RE8, I think, fixes this a lot because it's a lot less scripted in most areas, and it's a lot more fun to play for a second time.
I'm also going to explain this. Oh, by the way, the recording kind of fell apart by the end, which is why I'm coming in so much. But basically, I just think it's interesting that a lot of game series where they have a first entry that is very lackluster and very inconsistent, and then later entries make the series a lot more consistent, because usually the developers get better at making those kinds of games. Because most of the time, the types of games that I'm talking about are very unique and very original, and so they don't necessarily have like a blueprint already for how to make those types of games good, especially with like the 3D ones. Like Mario 64, can't really blame it for being as flawed as it is, especially because it was like the first like truly 3D game, for real. I can't fault it for that, and it's very influential in that way.
Also, I'm so excited for RE9. Can't wait for that game to come out. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe. And remember, a day without laughter is a day wasted.